We're still only got started, man. We still got so much to do.
Yeah, we're still youngsters.
You sure about that?
Ashley Reeves was a 17-year-old high school student that lived at home with both her parents.
Okay.
They weren't worried at first, but they just asked Casey, "Hey, have you talked to your sister?" Casey said, "No, I haven't heard from her since she dropped me off after school." So she reached out to Jeremy, the boyfriend. She said, "Hey, Jeremy, have you speak to Ashley?" And he said he hadn't heard from her all day either, and he's actually been texting and calling her. After a couple hours, some friends revealed that Ashley was hiding a dark secret. He says he doesn't know why he's here. He doesn't have nothing to do with her, but man, after a few hours, his answers started to become inconsistent, cracked. Like, you know what they say, pressure busts pipes.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They started applying pressure, and it's crazy how they did it, huh? He eventually cracked, and what he told police completely shocked them, huh? What's going on? What's going on, late night family? We back in the building.
Once again.
Coming to bring you another exciting episode of Late Night Conversations with Uncle Nephew. I am your host, King J, also known as Nephew. And to my left is my co-host,
JR, Big Unc.
What's up, Big Unc?
You already know, dog. Same old, trying to recuperate still.
Yeah, you trying to get that leg back in motion, huh?
Man, I'm trying, man, and it's just... There's some pains and there's just some good days and some bad days, nephew.
You know what you remind me of?
What's that?
You remind me of the Tin Man from Wizard of Oz. Well, I got to go over there and put some oil on your knee.
I wish it was that simple. Man. Yeah, I still got a little swelling still, man. And, I've been going to therapy twice a week. So
Hell yeah.
Well, you've been taking me, so.
Hell yeah, man. That's where your daily vlog's been coming in, right?
We didn't vlog Tuesday. I didn't vlog Tuesday, man. We were kind of in a little rush, so we ate. Yeah. We went to go eat, and I went back home.
And we skedaddled, man.
Yeah.
But it's good you're doing better, man. I got an exciting story for you tonight.
True crime?
Yeah, it's a true crime story, man. Thank y'all for watching, man. Thank y'all for the reviews that we've been getting on the podcast, man. We're starting to gain more and more followers. We're getting messages.
Right.
Bro, it's been a blessing, man. So we just want to shout out to y'all, man. Anybody that's watching the podcast, man, we really appreciate it. This has been so fun, and we're still only got started, man. We still got so much to do.
Yeah, we're still youngsters.
You sure about that? You sure about that? You sure about that?
So much planned. Well, one of us is but for real though, man. We are young in the game, and every now and then we get a hate comment here and there, but man, it's expected.
We let it slide off like a duck.
Man, I don't care. We got a couple super fans, man, that really, really reach out to us every time we drop an episode. So we appreciate y'all. And, man, y'all keep following us, man. We got a lot planned.
Yep.
Some funny games coming pretty soon, man. We got some stuff that we want to do.
I don't know if we're going to do that one or not, nephew. I don't know if I can.
I think we can, dog.
Okay.
We're going to have a vomit fest on live. Man, we got an exciting episode planned out for y'all tonight. I got a great true crime story, and then probably some good banter after that, man. Right. Some back and forth, man. This story's going to make you think.
Okay.
It's something that happened a little more recently than what we've been doing before.
Okay.
And, the people are still alive to this day.
Okay, so there's
actually an update as of last year on the one of the main persons on the case.
Okay.
Wherever y'all are watching, man, before we jump into this case, whether that be Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, man, wherever you get your podcast from, man, go ahead and drop a follow for us, man, if y'all enjoy our content. If not, hey, man, we appreciate you stopping by, even if you didn't like it. But if you do, give us a follow, man. Check us out. If you're on YouTube, man, hit that subscribe button and punch that bell right in his mouth so you get notified every time we drop a video. And that's 8 a.m. on Fridays.
Yep.
Today's story is called The Terrifying Case of Ashley Reeves.
Ashley Reeves.
So, Ashley Reeves was a 17-year-old high school student that lived at home with both her parents and her younger sister, Casey, in a tiny town in the middle of the United States. And if it weren't for Ashley, in 2006, no one would even know this town existed. So little. The town is called Millstadt, Illinois. The population at the time was about 4,000.
Okay.
And as of 2025, I checked, it went down to 3,000. So anyways, Ashley, she was not your average typical girl. She was a promising basketball player, and she was well liked amongst her peers. She was described as having such a great personality and a very infectious smile, and having many friends.
Okay.
She also had a boyfriend named Jeremy that Ashley's parents really loved. Like, they adored him.
Right.
Which is crazy because 17, your daughter got a boyfriend.
2000, it's different right now.
I don't know if you feeling him, but I mean, obviously he was a good dude.
Right.
For they like him. So, well, life seemed to be going great for Ashley. She was a year out from graduation, and she was already looking into colleges to go to, and things seemed like they were falling in place. But all that would change on Thursday, April 27th of 2006. That morning started off like any typical morning. She got up, she got ready for school with her sister, and before she left from home, Ashley swung by, the kitchen and told her parents, look, after school, I have a job interview, and then I'm going to go play basketball with some of my friends on the other side of town, also where her interview was at. And so her parents said, oh, cool, no problem. But she needed to be home before her curfew, which was 10:30.
Right.
And she said, that sounds great. I'll see y'all tonight. Well, later that afternoon, at the end of her school day, she went up to her boyfriend Jeremy's locker. She gave him a hug, gave him a little kiss, thanked him, because at that time, he was handing her the keys to his SUV. She left his locker, and he was going to let her borrow the car for the interview and to go play back, whatever she needed.
Right.
And so after she got done with Jeremy, she went down the hall and met up with her sister at her locker, and they both got into Jeremy's SUV and drove home. So once they get home, man, Casey said her goodbyes. She went inside their home, and Ashley pulled off and headed to a city about 15 minutes away called Fairview Heights.
Okay.
And that's where her interview was going to be. So a couple hours go by, and around 10 p.m., starting to get close to her curfew, Ashley's parents hadn't heard from her all day.
Oh, wow.
So they, right away, they weren't worried at first. But they just asked Casey, hey, have you talked to your sister? Casey said, no, I haven't heard from her since she dropped me off after school. So, at first still they weren't too worried. It was just like, I wonder if she should be here in a minute. But something was tugging at the mom. Like, something didn't feel right. So she reached out to Jeremy, the boyfriend. She said, hey, Jeremy, have you speak to Ashley? And he said he hadn't heard from her all day either. And he's actually been texting and calling her. He wants to know she's okay. She has my car. And she hasn't been answering. So at this point, now they're kind of getting a little worried.
Right.
So after hearing this, her parents got worried and started calling her friends one by one. I guess, how back then, and my mom did it to me when I was younger, she wanted to see who you're talking to, you go, or your text messages, or you go print out that phone bill from whatever company.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you can go to Sprint or whatever, print the phone bill out and print the text messages and stuff. So I guess she went on there and checked her phone bill, and she started calling all Ashley's friends, one by one. And they all had the same story. They hadn't heard from her all day, and she wasn't answering her texts or calls. At this point, of course, Ashley's mom is now worried. So she called the police. The police, bro, in this city, they get calls like this, from time to time, runaway kids, but they would always return. But the police stated that hearing the fear in her mother's voice made them jump right on the case.
Right.
So immediately they start searching for Jeremy's missing car. So they're like, if we can find the car, maybe we can find Ashley.
Right.
And so they go to a place. It's a park in Millstadt. And it's in between Millstadt and Fairview, where she was going.
Right.
It's called Latterman Park. So it's actually a place Ashley goes to a lot because it has a really nice basketball court. And it's a really big hangout spot for the young kids of Millstadt and stuff,
Right.
And so that's the first place they search. So they head to that park, and as soon as they get there, they see Jeremy's SUV in the parking lot.
Oh, was there?
But Ashley was nowhere to be found. And so they start searching the car, and inside the car, nothing was really crazy. There was a couple clothing items of Ashley in the back, but other than that, it looked normal. So immediately, they started a full-scale search of the surrounding parks. But after really finding nothing, the sun started coming up. They're searching well into the night, and Ashley still hadn't showed up by the morning.
Wow.
So the police started suspecting something bad must have happened to her.
Right.
Started suspecting some sort of foul play. So after the night of searching, the police started calling in friends and family for questioning. And who do you think they called in first?
The boyfriend.
The boyfriend, right?
What about the interview? They didn't know about it, or they didn't?
I guess they didn't check in on the interview place. You know what? I think they did check in with the interview place, and they said that she did go and she left.
Oh, okay. So she didn't
that,
make the interview after that?
After that, they don't know what happened.
Okay.
So they reached out to Jeremy, and of course they brought him in for questioning. So they sat down with him, and immediately they noticed that he truly looked concerned for Ashley. Like, he really was worried about her, and he had a rock-solid alibi. So, I mean, at that point, they released him as a suspect.
Right.
So one after another, they started hauling in family and friends. And after a couple hours, some friends revealed that Ashley was hiding a dark secret. And some of her friends were hiding that same secret from the police.
Oh, wow.
It turned out that Ashley wasn't just in one relationship. She was hiding a second secret relationship. That relationship was not only behind Jeremy's back, but it was also against the law. And I'll get to that in a minute.
I can kind of think what it is, but all right, go ahead.
So the thing is, man, every time Ashley was telling her parents that, hey, I'm gonna go play basketball with my friends at this park, or anytime she had an errand, she was actually going to the park to meet up with her secret boyfriend. And her friends told the police that day that when she went missing, that's where she was going. And here's the crazy thing, man, this is where it gets wild, dog. It gets wild. So, after asking all her friends and stuff, the police got the name of the man from the friends.
Right.
His name was Sam Shelton. So they tracked him down and went to find him, and he was at baseball practice.
Okay.
So the police went onto the field, grabbed him, and brought him in for questioning. And there's tapes on YouTube, you can look it up, his interview, his questioning, and he's still in his uniform. Like, they took him straight in.
Right.
And so, they start interviewing him, and initially they're asking him questions like, hey, about his relationship with Ashley,
right,
this and that. At first he's denying everything, of course. He's like, man.
Yeah, he's an older man. She's a teenager.
Okay, see? You already know. He says he doesn't know why he's here. He doesn't have nothing to do with her. But, man, after a few hours, his answers started to become inconsistent.
Right.
So they started applying more pressure. And eventually, he cracked. Like, you know what they say? Pressure bust pipes.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They started applying pressure. And it's crazy how they did it, They started asking him about his grandma. And they said, what if we went to your grandmother and told her this story? What do you think she would think of you? And I don't know if that's all it took, dog, but it softened him.
Some people are like,
that close, yeah, you know what I mean? And it softened his heart. And so, yeah, man, after the interviewing, he eventually cracked. And what he told police completely shocked them. Based on his testimony, this is an account of what happened to Ashley. So the day she went missing, Ashley went to her interview, and after wrapping it up, she drove to the park where she met up with Sam. She went and got into his car, and they got intimate with each other. Well, after they finished, they were sitting in Sam's car, and something happened to where they got into a huge argument. Okay. And Sam started yelling at Ashley to get out of his car. He's like, man, get out of my car, you know how, get out the car. And so she kept refusing. She's like, I'm not getting out. And she wanted to talk about, what are they going to do?
Or whatever,
whatever incident happened. She wanted to talk about it. And so at some point, he got so mad that he lunged over the center console and put Ashley in a chokehold.
What?
So he told police his plan was that because she wouldn't get out of the car, he was going to just lock her neck up and drag her out of the car.
Right.
Well, here's the thing, when he put his arm around her, he squeezed her to pull her. He squeezed her so hard, he heard a loud popping sound.
Tell me it was her neck.
And that was the sound of Ashley's neck breaking.
Oh, man.
When he heard this, he let her go immediately. She went limp and slumped forward and hit the dashboard. So he got scared and looked around to see, damn, did anybody saw him? Yeah. So he looked around. Nobody was really paying attention. So he grabbed Ashley and pulled her back up to see if she was dead. She was still alive. Instead of getting help, Unc, he decides, I'm going to go ahead and kill her.
What?
So he takes his hands and he wraps them around Ashley's neck and starts strangling her and strangling her. Well, he's choking her with all his might, but after several minutes, he notices that she just won't die. So he pulled his belt off his waist and wrapped it around her neck and started pulling and pulling on that belt tight and tight. And he was doing that for several minutes, but after a while, he said he couldn't take the look on Ashley's face because she was looking at him.
That's insane.
And he said that
she wouldn't die.
He said that her tongue was hanging out and she was foaming and frothing at the mouth.
She was probably paralyzed from the neck down and couldn't do nothing.
Exactly. And so he said that he couldn't get her to die, even with the belt in him. He couldn't take it. So what he did was, dude, this is why I'm like, what the hell is he thinking, bro? He lets go of the belt. He grabs her by her shoulders and he shifts her this way so she'll look the other way. And then he repositioned the belt, and then he grabbed the belt and he put his foot on her back.
Wow.
And started yanking the belt back
dog.
To choke her. So he did that for as long as he could. And he said the whole time, man, her face started turning a real sickly color, like real grayish, bluish.
Yeah.
And so at this point, eventually, when he was too tired, the belt snapped around her neck. He was pulling it so tight. It snapped. And so he checked to see if she was dead, and then he drove her to another park named Citizens Park, and it was a heavily forested park. So he ended up getting her there. He dragged her body out of the car, and then he dragged her into the forest pretty deep as he could go, and he just left her body there. He didn't bury her, he just left her there, and he took off. So here's the thing, you already said it earlier. What I was going to say was Sam Shelton, not only was he sought after by Ashley, but a lot of girls. He was a handsome man. He had blue eyes, and he wasn't a teenager. He was a 27-year-old middle school teacher. So he was 10 years old.
Oh, I had a teacher.
He was a middle school teacher.
Wow.
In Milstead. And he was the high school baseball teacher, or the high school baseball coach. He was never Ashley's teacher directly, but back when she was in middle school, he began grooming her.
Yeah.
And so years later, when she hit 17, I guess he felt like that was old enough. He manipulated her into thinking they were in this intense relationship. But really, he was just using his power as a teacher, as a authoritative figure to abuse this little girl.
Yeah.
So after his confession, man, Sam told the police that he would take them to where he put Ashley's body. And it was dark, man. It had been raining for hours and hours. So when they got there, at first, Sam was acting all confused, like he didn't know where or remember where the body was at. And so they were searching and for about 30 minutes, they were searching, and after 30 minutes, one of the cops sees something in a clearing on the floor. So he picks his flashlight up, and he sees it's Ashley's body. So they all rush over there, man, and dude, her body doesn't look good. Her neck is contorted into a weird angle, and her arms were like curled up by her neck, like they had seized up. And she was covered in bugs. Right. I mean, dude, it looked rough.
Right.
And as they were staring at her,
she moved her eyes.
They noticed that her chest started moving.
What?
Man, she wasn't dead.
What?
She was still alive, and she had been left for dead more than 30 hours in the freezing cold rain. And so, dude, immediately they called paramedics. And the paramedics are called. They rushed her to the hospital, and they put her into a medically induced coma. So the doctors evaluate her, and they come to the family, and they tell her, look, her injuries are just too much to overcome. We don't think she's going to wake up. And she did. She would end up waking up, and here's the crazy thing, she had to learn, of course, she had to learn how to walk, talk.
Oh, so he snapped her neck, but she didn't become paralyzed.
She didn't become paralyzed. And she had to relearn everything, man, to walk, talk, eat. I mean, I mean, I don't know if it's because her brain had some type of damage to it.
Right. That's what I was going to ask you. So she didn't have brain damage, or
no, she didn't. That's the crazy thing.
So she remembered everything.
So she doesn't remember a couple days before and the day of.
Okay.
She had her memories blacked out.
Which is kind of typical. Yeah.
Yeah, you know. And she said maybe she just doesn't want to remember.
Yeah.
She said that when she does think about it, that
she blocked it out.
I think she just blocked it out. And so she ends up making a full recovery, and she's alive and well today. She's 35 now, and she's married, and she has 2 children.
It's been 19 years.
Yeah, and she's married. She has 2 children of her own, and she's lived a pretty relatively great life since then. Now Sam, on the other hand, he was sentenced to 20 years in prison for attempted murder, and he was up for parole in 2024. And he got it. He was released on April 22nd, 2024, a full 3 years before his full sentence.
Wow.
He just got released last year. And I didn't realize it doing the research for the story, but we're in April.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I was going to tell you, that's why I said 19 years, because next year will be 20 years when it happened.
Yep.
You know, and I was like, you said 2006, so we're 25, that's 19. So do they all still live in Milstead, or?
She lives somewhere in, I think she lives somewhere in Illinois still.
Still in Illinois?
Somewhere. Dude, she actually got her story, you know, of course it's got great attention from the news outlets.
Right,
and
I'm
all
sure
that.
it did. And I want to say, I kind of remember, but I don't know if Dateline or 2020 did this story too. Maybe Ashley Flowers did it, I'm not sure. But
man, they actually, they did like a little documentary on her. And I think it's been turned into like a show for Lifetime or whatever.
Yeah. Little documentary?
Yeah, a little documentary of her life, you know. And it's a good story. I like how the ending turned out.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, she powered through and fought for her life.
That's great determination for somebody who practically was dead, you know.
Bro, 30 hours that she was left alone to die. And
ain't no telling how many animals or
she was covered in bugs
and
dude,
that she endured, in order, to stay alive,
with a broken neck, you know what I mean.
But a good thing that he confessed, Good thing that her friends, finally gave up the name,
finally gave up the information.
There's something like that, and there's no reason to hide it anymore. That's something that's going to come out, and it turned out that he was the one who killed her or tried to kill her.
Right.
So.
And if he never would have got caught, how many other girls could he?
Yeah, how many had he already started?
Grooming.
Grooming, yeah.
Or even like this, huh? Think about it like this: how many other girls? What if this snapped something in him? Because it just takes one murder, and now maybe he's hooked to the adrenaline he felt, and now he can go on a killing spree.
How many was prevented from by telling on him and breaking him?
And in a town of 4,000. That's nothing, dog. Yeah. Like you probably can get away with a couple good murders.
Probably could.
You know what I mean? So it's like it's an interesting story, man. But it's a great redemption story for her.
Yeah.
I mean, she almost died, man. But she fought, man. The will to live. And doesn't that impress you on the will
it does,
we have to live?
And it's so strange that you just said this story today, because. Today when I was TikToking and stuff, looking up some stuff, people who had who have died and gone to heaven or hell and asked to go back. I don't want to die yet. That's her. I don't want to die yet.
Facts.
So that's just crazy that I was looking up stuff today. and it was because a story popped up on my TikTok, and so I was like, you know what? Let me start looking this stuff up. Of how many people have come back from the dead. Right. Who have been...
what do they call that? The Lazarus effect?
Yeah.
The movie?
Yeah. Well, they're dead, pronounced dead, and then beep, all of a sudden,
they come back.
They get a heartbeat where... I'm not saying all of them have a true story. I don't know. I mean, if somebody has a story that they've been to hell or been to heaven or saw something, you got to believe them because you weren't there. They were.
Yeah, exactly.
But just the sheer determination of coming back,
that's
to
facts.
live, like her. That's what is so strange that connects with each other. For me looking that up and then you telling me this story.
That's cool. Like we're on the same page. Yeah. Dude, it's crazy. And that story made me think about that, because I was thinking of like how we value life so much, and some people don't realize, like, in the moment of where you are about to die, your determination that you will have to live.
Right.
You would do anything to stay alive.
To stay alive.
You know? And I was just thinking back like the Saw movies.
Yeah.
I love the Saw movies, dog.
Those are intense, dog. Those are like...
And it's just, it puts you to the question, like, imagine being in that situation.
He's playing God by saying, you committed this sin.
Right.
How you going to fix this? You got to... It's been so long since I've seen it, but I know that they get in contraptions that are... If you don't say the right things or
if you don't get the key, you got to play the game.
Right.
You got to play to win, and if you don't play, you die.
Yeah,
and it's, dog. I was just thinking, like, man, could you imagine having one of my favorite, the traps on Saw? There's a girl. It's called the bear trap.
Okay,
and it's a helmet, and it's hanging down on both sides.
Inside, yeah.
And whenever time's up, boom, it closes on your head. And I was just like, damn. Or like there was one where she had to pull her eyeball out to get the key from inside her eye socket.
Oh man!
She had to take the scalpel and she had to pop her eye out to grab the key.
That's that's determination to survive.
But you'll be surprised, man.
Well, I mean, you hear it all the time. Look at that gentleman that was hiking and he fell in between them rocks, and that rock, he literally sawed his arm off with a pocket knife.
Yeah,
that's
just to live, bro.
And I saw something today, and like I said, when I was looking up stuff, man, and are we in a simulation? Our will to survive, are we alive or are we dreaming?
Right.
Just having the will to survive, we're not in a simulation. In a simulation, who cares if you live or die?
Right.
I'm like, like when you play Grand Theft Auto, you're killing all these people, man. That's a simulation.
Yeah, exactly.
So answering last week's question, we're not in a simulation because
we have a will to live. Okay, that's a good theory. That's a good damn good theory.
Man, I guess because of the stuff that I was researching this morning and looking up during the time that I was sleeping off and on because I was in some pain this morning, and it just intrigued me this morning to look that up.
Right.
Of how many people have come back from the dead, dude.
Yeah,
hundreds and hundreds of people that you see all the time, during surgeries or emergencies.
Right.
Car wreck, been shot, I even saw one, that said it was a drug deal gone bad, and this dude didn't believe in God, but he called his mom because he got all shot up. He was trying to make it to the hospital, driving himself.
Dang.
And his mama just said, stop and ask God for forgiveness. So he ended up stopping the car, dude, and he said, God, I forgive the person who shot me. And I apologize for the sins I've committed. Please forgive me. He blacked out. They found him, took him to the ER, pronounced him dead. A few minutes later, he came back to life.
Dang, dog.
They told him there's no physical way you could have survived the gunshots that you did, but he's walking. Is it a made-up story? I don't know. People can, there's stories everywhere.
Right, of course.
But something like that. Of course, that's God, but
right.
But having just the will to survive.
It's just like an instinct, man.
You got kids.
Right.
I have kids, so you don't want to die.
Right, exactly.
But then there's moments that you're like, I want to die.
Yeah. I think everybody hits that. Which
not suicidal tendencies.
Oh, okay.
You're just like, maybe the world is better without me because of what I've done or what I'm going through.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
I can't handle the situation anymore. I'd rather not handle the situation.
Right.
I don't think that's suicidal tendency. I think that's just giving up the will to survive.
Right. Exactly. Man, that's a good question, huh? I got something I want to tell you, but we're going to take a quick break. I know we haven't done this in a while, but we're going to take a quick break. And when we get back, I want to answer that question that you just asked.
Okay.
Or there's a topic I want to talk about because you're starting to dive into something about mental health. I got a question for you.
Okay.
And then I got another question for you before we end.
All right.
I got a cool question for you.
All right.
So let's be right back, and then we'll jump back into this.
That'll work.
A few moments later.
All right, we back. We back in the building. All right, man, to get back to what you were saying. I like what you were about to jump into, how you were saying sometimes do we just give up the will to live?
Right.
Because I question that with certain people, like, like when Momo passed away, my grandma, your mom.
Right.
How she held on, it seemed, until Bumble said that it's okay to let go.
Right.
And it's like, you think in your mind, the will to live is so strong, but maybe when you do let go of the will to live, you do pass.
You do pass, yeah.
Or even a suicidal situation, because I've dealt with suicidal thoughts and clinical depression in the past, and to this day we still struggle with it. But what are ways? Because I know you've gone through depression.
Yeah.
What are ways that you think have helped you cope with your depression?
In all honesty, nephew, I think it's just it's kids.
Kids.
When Kim passed and I was struggling with the very, if I would have died at that moment,
right,
I wouldn't have died of depression. I wouldn't have died of hunger. I would have died of a broken heart.
Right. Exactly. Okay.
But I couldn't give up. Well, I did give up for a little bit until I'm like, I got to do something.
Yeah,
I got to get out of that, because I have Jade, I have Matthew, I have Brandy, I have Akira and Caden. I got my, I still have more family.
Right.
And without me, now it's double for them.
Okay.
Kimberly's gone. Everybody was close to Kim. Then I passed away. I'm the oldest in the family, and now not only do I got to deal with my sister's death, but now I got to deal with my dad's death. You hear sometimes where I think it was a drive-by, if I'm not mistaken, in California a while back. This dude got shot, and his dad was trying to help him.
Right.
And his dad couldn't take the pressure, and he ended up having a heart attack and dying the same right there on top of his son.
See, that's crazy.
So that's and like you said, Momo, some of us do hang on to the will to survive till they finally somebody who means so much to us says, hey, you know what? Like, you see, grandparents, even a couple who are in their late 80s, early 90s, right. And you hear all the time that they either pass together in the same bed, or the husband or the wife passes, and then a few days later, the other spouse passes because they just can't live without them.
Right.
And I think that's where we're getting at, giving up the will to survive.
Right. And see, that's what I mean, like, so back to the question of like, what do you think helped you pull yourself out of that? I know you said kids, but if there's anything else that helped you?
Well, of course, my religion, God, being able to say, what, God, I'm sorry, you took somebody from me that meant the most, than anything to me.
Right.
A child of mine.
Exactly.
So I blamed him for many, many months,
Right.
So getting back to him and asking for forgiveness and getting back to church and getting back to prayer is what pulled me out completely.
Right.
Besides getting a job. I had quit my job. I was just laying around, not doing anything, not having no income, running out of all the money I had.
Yeah, depression to do that to you.
Depression to do, so
facts.
You finally have to say, you know what? Enough is enough.
Right. See, that's good that you just said that. I think a lot of people overlook that, which I've dealt with depression for a long time, know. And I think the one thing that I can always tell people is that depression is hard to overcome.
Yeah.
But the only thing, God for sure.
Right.
But you have to at some point say enough is enough.
Yeah.
I have to take my life back.
Right.
Because when you fall into depression, and there's days where you don't even feel like getting up and showering for 2-3 days. You just don't feel like doing nothing, man. Just laying in bed. and you feel like you're withering away, like, you know, at some point it's like you're giving your life over no more. You're losing your will to live.
Right.
You have to reclaim it somehow. Now, how I do it and I don't know how anybody out there who deals with depression, or I genuinely mean this from the bottom of my heart, because this is something that's close to me. Like, mental health is a big,
of course.
I hold it dear to me. I always tell people the one thing that has helped me is confiding in somebody, finding somebody to talk to, whether it be therapy.
It is, nephew.
You know what I mean?
It is.
Because like we've said in the past, us as Mexicans have a hard time
finding therapy.
I don't need therapy.
Yeah.
I don't need to talk to them about my problems, but don't you do though? Like, you don't understand the weight that lifts off your shoulders when you get with somebody and you're like, man, look, I've been going through this.
Right.
I feel like I'm not good enough. I feel like this, and you have somebody to lift you up.
Well, you have to have somebody who's going to respect you, to lift you up. And not belittle you.
Exactly. And see, that for me is like, that goes back to, you got to choose your circle wisely. Right. That's why I don't keep a big circle. Right. I have a select few people around me who I know that if I'm going through something at 3 a.m, I can call them and they'll pick up the phone. Right. You know, sometimes, and not a lot of people have the luxury to have that. Yeah, and I understand. But that's why therapy, you know, reach out to somebody. Right. That alone. And find something to occupy the mind. Yeah. That's another reason. That's another thing
that's when I went and found a job. So now I have no choice but to get up in the morning and go to work. And like I told you before, that became my safe zone. Right. Leave everything at the door.
And you're working.
And just work. You know, not that I forgot about Kim.
But it takes your mind off of it.
But now I'm a little bit more free to be the person I was at one point, and laugh and joke for a little bit, and get your mind and your body back healthy enough to overcome this depression. Exactly. You know, I'm old school. I'm not somebody that's looking for therapy. I'm not looking for somebody to sit down and talk one-on-one. You know, are you all right? Of course I am. Yeah. But I'm not.
You're not, exactly. You know? And that's the damage that has been done for generation after generation upon. Sometimes you got to realize that we can't bear it all. You know what I mean? There's only been one man that has been able to handle the weight of the world of his shoulders, and that was Jesus.
Exactly.
You know, and of course we got his spirit living in us. Yeah. But at the same time, it's like, bro, we were made.
How many men have passed away from mental health, from trying to
they're bottling up everything.
And finally, you know, and I don't want to say passed away, but lost it. Yeah, and couldn't take it and killed their spouse. Or anybody else. You know?
Exactly. And Unc, I always tell people, lack of sympathy is probably a big problem with today's society.
Oh, most definitely, yeah.
Lack of sympathy. We're so desensitized to emotions and feelings and people's well-being because, like you just said, how many people have just lost it, or you know, they look at suicide as a bad. Like, of course, it's not good. But what I'm saying is, they look at it as selfish.
Yeah, you're going to hell. You know,
you're going to hell. You selfish. And what do you think this person was dealing with in his mind that made him want to kill himself, man? You know what I mean? Like, how deep?
How many times are you willing to step in that man's shoe?
Exactly.
You know. Would you be able to deal with it? Once it off, you know, we'll never know. Usually, we'll never know why a person commits suicide. Right. You know, unless they leave a note. But even then,
is that really why, or is that
just something they put down on words, you know, to ask for forgiveness from the family or whatever? But mental health is really big, and you're saying you're right. Being desensitized from having sympathy. All you hear nowadays, man, is just rough, dog. You know, that man died. Well, who cares?
Who give a damn? Yeah, like, man, I got going on in my life
right now, and I missed our Zoom call with my class reunion. We're having 40th this year, dog. 40
years?
Yeah, 40-year reunion.
Man, you've been out of high school longer than I've been alive.
Yeah. And anyways, they had posted a memorial. They're going to have a memorial, you know. Okay. And I'm 59. I'm one of my oldest in my class. Right. Everybody that, you know, post their age are 57, 58, you know.
Right.
The youngest probably be 57, you know, two graduate in 85. And couldn't believe how many people have passed away.
It's wild, huh?
Man, I bet you there's 20, man. I know 20 may not sound a lot, but we had
that's
300
a lot of people, man.
You know, to be in their 50s, you know, I'm not saying they all died in their 50s. I mean, I'm sure I think somebody died, right out of school, you know.
Exactly.
But, you know, it's just insane, man.
In actuality, 50 is not old, man.
It's
50 is not old to be passing away, which I've lost my grandma.
Yeah.
You know, she was, in her 50s?
50s.
And so was my other grandma when she passed.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, that's pretty young, man. But, I mean, that is true. Like, you know, we got to be more sympathetic towards people, man. I know we got a lot going on in our lives every day. I know that we may have a lot going on within ourselves, but take the time every now and then and just say, hey, how are you? How really are you doing? And
that's the question. Yeah. That's the question that means more to anybody than anything else, I think, man, is having the courage to say, how are you, man? Exactly. You know, I have a couple that I hang out with from my work, and which I called them last week, try to keep up with them, even though I'm not working in the moment. But when I look rough, they're there to be like, hey, what's going on? What's going on? Yeah. You know, you're looking what's going on. And so I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm having one of those days. But even though I'm having one of those days, just by having a friend to say, hey, dude, what's up, man? You know, you look rough. Yeah, you look like you're going through something. Yeah, I am. You know, I'm missing my daughter more and more today. I'm going through it today. Right. Well, we got your back, you know.
And that little conversation.
That right there, lives that
burden.
energy. Yeah.
Exactly.
And you're like, man, people do really care.
Exactly.
And that's what people need to understand, is that to really care is to really care and say, bro, you know, snap out of it, man.
Exactly, man. That's what I'm saying, and that's good, man. I'm glad we got to that little piece, because, man, if anybody out there is struggling with any form of depression or any type of, like us, man, we're two small guys from this city that, you know, we ain't from a big city. We're not huge. We ain't famous. No. But, man, we want to be here for people just like anybody else. You know what I mean? And that's our message for this little segment is, man, be a friend. Be a listening ear. Every now and then, take some time out of your schedule to really check on your people. Yeah. Because I know how it feels to be the one always checking on everybody and nobody check back on me. Right. And it hurts, bro. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? But I had to evaluate who's around me, and I fixed that, man. Now I got people around me, a good support team. Right. And that's really what it's about, man. Right. And don't be embarrassed to ask for help. Oh. You know what I mean?
And that's the hardest part, is asking. You know, because pride thing, you know, especially
our culture, you know. But yeah, once you break out of that shell, man, you'll realize that the grass really is greener on the other side. Right. Man.
On something like that, yeah.
And life really is worth living.
It is.
But man, that was a good segment.
It was. You got one more question.
I got one more question pertaining back to how you started talking about simulations, and you know, we were talking about simulations, and you know, like the Matrix. Right. You've seen the Matrix, right?
Yeah, most definitely.
So I got a question for you, man. What pill would you take if you were in the Matrix? Now, if you remember, the red and blue pill he gave him, you know, they represent a choice between accepting a harsh, real truth or remaining in a comfortable illusion. The blue pill represents ignorance, comfortable, manufactured reality. It offers a return to the simulated world. Right. But if you take the red pill, it gives you the ability to stay awake in the true, harsh reality that allows the individual to see the world as it truly is, often involving difficult discoveries and choices. So, would you want a life of comfortability? Well, what would you do? A life of comfortableness, or would you take the red pill and embrace the real world?
And that's a damn good question, because look, and that would go back to how mentally prepared you are for something like that.
Right.
At this moment in my life, where I'm still struggling, still recovering, still trying to figure out who I am at 59.
Right.
I would probably take the comfortable level, you know, the blue
pill. You want the comfortable. Yeah.
In my 30s, when I was focused
you feel
and
like
working and pumping iron and golfing and and that was full of life, I would have taken the red pill.
Right.
You know?
Okay.
So at this moment right now, it would probably be a blue pill. I mean, not that I couldn't handle, but I would struggle in that life.
Right.
I would struggle more than I'm struggling now.
Man, something just popped up in my head right when you were saying that. You know how people say that they've died and went to heaven and God was giving them a choice to go back or stay?
Right.
What if that's the representation of that? You take the blue pill, you get to stay in heaven with me. You take the red pill, you go back down there to that harsh world. But you're embracing sometimes painful truth and reality, but it's for the betterment of your character.
I was going to say, if you go back,
and
you have the ability to make a difference.
Right.
Where
exactly.
If there is levels in heaven, you don't want to be here. At your present life, you could be here, but if you go back and make a difference, you could probably
elevate yourself. You know,
like
they say, you building a mansion up there.
Right,
dog. I trip out on that because I had to ask myself the same question: what would I take? Do I want a life of comfortability? Because you realize
we are the life of comfortability here.
You know what I mean? You want to live a comfortable life. That's really the goal of any human.
Yeah.
But man,
then you watch movies and see things that not far-fetched, but where people are doing exciting things, We were never taught as kids adrenaline.
Right.
We know adrenaline, and we've had adrenaline when we're in the street fights or football. Right. But true adrenaline, like, skydiving, rock climbing,
something
mountain climbing where you have
something you didn't think you could do.
Yeah, push your body to the limit.
See, and it's like, I think personally, we want to live comfortably, but man, what if taking that red pill means a better life? Because when you live comfortably, you just kind of like inner line, day to day, same old crap. But man, when you take that red pill and you're embracing them painful truths, it's like, now your life is harder, but sometimes challenge is good for you.
Right.
You know
because
what I mean?
Are we really being challenged right now?
Are you really happy being comfortable? Just fall in line simulation? Or do you want to experience a more intense life?
And who knows what that life is? We don't know because we don't live it.
I think I would take the red pill, me personally.
Even at this moment in your life right now?
Even at this moment right now. Okay. I think I would want to see the ugly truths because I don't want to be lied to my whole life. I want to see the real reality.
But what would be the ugly truth that you would think for you right now? What in the red zone, let's say the red zone, what's the question I'm trying to ask? In the red zone, like what ability do you not have now that you could probably have that would force you to
choose the red? This is my thinking. Because I think, what if in the blue, you can't do nothing but whatever, you're in a simulation.
Right.
So you can only do what
is allowed.
What is allowed. But in the red zone, the red pill, you can change your life and do what you want to do instead of falling in line like the rest of the sheep.
Right.
I can actually do what I want to do with my life, and I can,
But at the same time, if you're not mentally prepared for that life, it could take you out.
It could, but that's the risk
you're taking. But even because you're taking that risk, are you at another level?
That's what I'm saying.
Just because you took that risk.
Imagine the life you could live instead of being just comfortable. And that goes back to like millionaires, these rich people, Eric Thomas, he says it the best. I mean, this all pertains to what we talked about today.
Right.
That story. You've heard that story Eric Thomas told, right? About the businessman wanting to be rich, and so he got with that rich guru.
Right.
Have you heard that story?
No, I haven't.
Oh, dude. You know who Eric Thomas is, right? The motivational speaker?
I don't know him. I know Zig Ziglar.
Dude, shout out to Eric Thomas, man. You are the dopest.
You know what? For some reason, I don't know him. And if I do, I may have heard him. It's not clicking right now.
So to close out today's podcast, I want to tell you, he has a story where he says there's a guy who meets a rich guru. I mean, he's a business multi-mogul.
Right.
And he tells him, man, I want to be just as rich as you. I want to do this and do that. I want to be successful. And he says, you want to be successful? Meet me at the beach tomorrow morning at like 4 or 5 a.m., whatever. So he says that he shows up. He's like, and he shows him in a business suit, real good dress shoes, and he says he meets up with the guru and he tells him go out into the beach, into the ocean. So he goes out. He's like, "What the hell, man? I'm wearing this suit, man." So he gets about knee deep, and he's like, "Yeah, go ahead and go further." So he goes about waist deep, and he's like, "Man, go out further." And he's like, at this point, he's like, "Man, this dude's crazy. Like, I'm here to be successful, to be rich, and this dude's got me swimming." Like, and so he tells him to go even further, and he gets about neck deep, you know. And he says that the business guru goes over there, grabs him by the head, and pushes him underwater. And he just starts drowning him. And he's fighting to escape. He's fighting. And finally, after a while, he comes out of the water. Out of breath, gasping. And he's like, "What did you want to do bad when you were in the water?" He's like, "Breathe. I just wanted to breathe." He's like, when you want to be successful as bad as you want to breathe, then you'll be successful.
Wow.
And that was the example he was showing him.
Right.
That's how bad you have to, if you want to be successful, that's how bad you have to want it. As bad as you want to breathe, because if you don't, you're gonna fall off by the wayside every time.
Wow.
If you're not that dedicated.
That's
and
good.
I think that's,
dude, that's good.
You know what I mean?
I got a retort to that is, in one hand you have a job, and in the other hand you have a business. Majority of the people would pick what?
Well, I'm assuming majority of people I would want the business.
Right, because you're not ordinary.
But most
majority
people
would pick the job. Why? Because that's money.
Yeah.
That's income coming in. To start a business, you may not make money. It's a risk.
Yeah.
Which are you willing to take?
And that pertains to the
bills. What I'm saying. Yeah.
Do you want the comfortable, just get a paycheck?
Do you want the job, or do you want to start a business?
That's the red pill. See, that's what I'm saying. You might get some ugly truths along the way, but you might be well off.
Yeah.
And you'll be your own
we
boss.
all have the potential of being businessmen or business women or a business person.
Right.
It's just the will.
Yep. To the drive.
And are you willing to get up at 5 a.m. and forego breakfast and hit the job?
Exactly.
The job.
Yeah. The extra dedication.
Are you willing to stop that afterlife? Partying,
everybody's having fun. You're at home sleeping,
but
you're working on your craft.
You're studying and thinking. We all have that potential,
but some of us.
But we all want the easy life. Go home, crack a beer open, watch TV,
and then get up and do it all over again.
I saw this the other day. Man, all I have is work clothes and sleeping clothes.
Exactly, man. And so it's like that's the blue pill for you, man. Do you want to live life comfortably and have your life? Good. You have your life planned out for you.
Oh yeah.
Do you want to take the risk and never know what you can achieve out of that?
That was good, nephew. This was good.
This was a good episode, man. I enjoyed the talk, man. We had, and I hope you liked the story I brought you today.
It was, man. I didn't know where it was going to go,
live, man.
When you said it's illegal, there was two ways it could be: incest or
I didn't even think about incest.
I was like, it's either going to be incest or it's a pedophile.
Yeah, pedophile. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
But that's, and that kind of steered our conversation, man. Her will to live. But man, I guess we're at a good stopping point, man. Is there anything else you want to say before we get out of here?
Just thank you to all the people, man, who texted or my people from work went by and dropped me off some
little care package.
Yeah, have some salts and stuff like that.
That's what's up, bro.
To soak in, and I really can't soak yet. But
I was gonna I was gonna say. Never mind.
Yeah.
I was gonna say you can't soak in that. You ever seen on Norbit where Rasputia get in the toilet?
This. Ooh, let me submerge this ass. How you darn. Oh. Ooh, goodness.
And the water should point out the sides.
Well, whatever we have, it has
it's got the jets.
Yeah,
damn.
But it don't work. So the water leak, it doesn't go that high. So I know I'm a big guy, dog. But I do like to soak in there, and they know that. So I appreciate to my people at West Texas Cooling Towers who sent that to me. Jose and Sophia and Danny and Rick.
Man, thank y'all for sticking around for another exciting episode of Late Night Conversations with Uncle Nephew. Until next week. Peace.